going to win the ALCS. We're positioned for the World Series as well. I'm just working on getting some tickets. That's all.
Well, good. All right. It's my pleasure to introduce you guys to Hajj Flemings, who I met about a month ago. We were both at a TED collaboratorium, and Hajj and I, we were working with 10 TED fellows, each of whom had 10 coaches, 10 mentors, and 10 facilitators who were really augmenting people's lives and sharing some of the kinds of information you all get here. Hajj and I were mentors, and they defined mentors as people who were subject specialists. Mine was art. Hajj is a specialist and an expert in branding, and I thought that he was really dynamic. So I conned him into showing up with us. So Hajj, the floor is yours, man. Roll.
Okay. All right. So I think we need to share my desktop, right?
Yeah, sure. Let me, not my desktop. Let me click on your name and make you the presenter.
Okay.
This is happening now, and then you can share your desktop as soon as you got it now.
Yeah, I got that. Let me go back to the screen, share my desktop.
Beautiful.
It is. All right. Then we'll go here. I think you can. All right. So you can see the slides?
Yes, sir. How to develop a personal brand.
All right. So let me look. Okay. So, all right. So I think we said we're going to go. I'm going to go for about 15 minutes or so, and then we're going to do some Q&A, and you're going to ask me some questions and kind of go from that route.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedule late at night. My name is Hajj Flemings. I'm based out of Michigan, based out of Detroit, Michigan, pretty much. And what I want to talk to you about today is a subject matter that I'm truly passionate about, and just getting people to think about themselves as a brand. Lots of times we are passionate and we do things, and we have a lot of great ideas. But now, how do you take those ideas and package them in a way where people want to be able to connect with you, right? And you're able to turn your ideas into value, and turn it into opportunity, turn it into revenue. And branding is a major component of it, because it really kind of helps people to better understand how to engage you. It helps people to better understand how you fit into the commerce world, right? Because it's one thing to be able to create something. It's something totally different to be able to create something of value, and not just something that you find valuable, but where there is a customer that is that's very interested in the work that you do, in a way that, that can create a lifestyle for you that allows you to be able to continue doing what you're doing. So we want to kind of talk about a few things, but I want to kind of lay the foundation in terms of branding. Most people are pretty aware of what this bottle is, or what this company or brand kind of stands for. This company has been in existence since the early 1800s, and it's Coca-Cola. But it's a very, very simple product. I like the product that they have, but their very core product is Coca-Cola. Some people would say it's sugar and water. But people find enough value in the products that they offer that they're willing to continue to make a financial commitment to purchase their product day in and day out. And if you think about it, this company has a market value, I think, of about $70 billion, meaning that if they were to have to start from scratch, meaning if they had no inventory, no facilities, and all they had was a trademark, and if they had a recipe, they would be able to go secure funding to be able to start the company from scratch, which means that there's enough value in that people would be able to then want to then be a part of purchasing product and connecting with their brand. And so really what I want you to really kind of start by thinking about is, what is the value proposition of what you do? Why do people want to engage you? Why would someone have an interest in the work that you do, or the work that you create, or the things that you're doing? And so this whole notion of being able to communicate your story becomes very, very important. And so really at the very core, a brand is really an experience. And so many of us have made some type of commitment or financial decision in terms of purchasing certain products or services based upon a certain experience that we have. And so when you think about your brand, it really goes back to what is the experience that people have when they experience your work or experience you as a person, because their engagement, you know, in terms of really how you share and communicate what you do, makes a big decision on whether they want to do business with you, because business in many cases is based on relationships. And so being a people person and being able to connect with people becomes very, very important. I'm from the Midwest, and one thing that I find is that we are an economy of factories. And what I mean by that is that a lot of our country was built upon manufacturing, and in Detroit we're built upon the middle class. We're built upon the automotive industry. And what happens is that there's a certain mentality or mindset that comes along with this type of industry. And what it is typically putting a round peg into a round hole. And we really have to learn how to break outside of that, because from a personal brand standpoint, you have to find a way. How do you stand out from everyone else? How do you position yourself so that you become the option or the thing that people want to be able to connect with? And reality is that perception can never be greater than reality. Have any of you ever connected with anyone on Facebook? And when you connected with them on Facebook, they literally walked on water, right? But then when you met them face to face, they couldn't chew gum and walk at the same time. And I've ran into people like this, and there's a major disconnect, because they project one thing, but who they really are is not what really comes through or people experience when they have a chance to be able to see this person in real life or be able to connect with their company. So at the end of the day, from a personal brand standpoint, perception has to always equal reality, meaning that whatever you're communicating or projecting or sharing, you have to have the ability to be able to carry that out. If not, what happens is that you begin to discredit your brand, right? And so now, well, one of the major things that I always want people to really think about is really, because this whole notion of branding and social media is this blurring of the line of this content that's being shared across multiple channels. And it's really getting people to think about, what are you committing your life to? I was reading a very interesting article that said that the average person will live 70, 80 years, which really translates to about 683,000 hours. Now, me personally, I plan on living 120 hours, 120 years myself. And the second largest activity that you're going to have in life, next to work is next to sleep is going to be work. And so now, and so that translates into, if you start at age 18, work to age 65 and work 40 hours a week, and most people work beyond that, you're going to commit yourself to 92,000 plus hours of work. And so as you begin to think about the work that you do, you want to be able to bring your genius to work every single day. And I think the people that are able to bring their genius to work are the individuals that are able to connect their passion to solving some type of problem that there's a huge market for, and you're able to connect that with some type of business model. Meaning that if you are a creative person, okay, what problem are you really attacking? What market are you really going after? And then what is it that you create that there's enough value that people want to be able to then be able to find ways to be able to utilize your services or to be able to bring you in to be able to do creative work. There's an individual, and I can't remember what his name is, but he ended up doing some murals for Facebook. So there was some kind of relationship that he had with someone who worked at Facebook, and he ended up doing the artwork, and I think he did most of the artwork pro bono, and he got stock options. Now of course, I mean, he probably, he might have cashed out on those because the Facebook stock is not doing as well as they had initially hoped for. But someone saw this individual's artwork, and then it created an opportunity for him. And so now, as you begin to think about developing your brand, relationships, and those kind of things, how do you do it in a way that begins to create some opportunity for you? You begin to do stuff that begins to open up doors to be able to take your brand and the ideas and things that you have to the next level. And so again, this whole concept of branding really goes into beginning to be able to really build meaningful relationships and beginning to build your network. Lots of times people will create a lot of online presences, right? And they look to have a lot of followers and those kind of things. But what does it mean to have a lot of followers? What does it mean? How do you translate those followers or the friends or things that you have into value, into opportunity, to be able to grow the idea that you actually have? So we'll hit a couple more points, and then I know we need to get into some questions. But from a brand standpoint, one of the major things I want you to think about is that you have to be a storyteller. And every single person has the ability to be an awesome storyteller, very engaging, even if you're not a charismatic person. And so part of telling a story is in being able to communicate in a very clear, concise, compelling way the most important parts of your story. And in the online world that we live in, most people are going to connect with you and connect with the product and connect with the works that you create before they ever meet you. And they'll make decisions on whether to use you or whether they want to actually share the work that you do without ever meeting you face to face. And so there's a tremendous opportunity for you to be able to grow your footprint in terms of people being more aware of what it is that you do. There's a guy by the name of I think his Twitter handle is Gaping Boy, and so he started doing artwork on the back of business cards and allowed people to be able to share that artwork at no cost. And what it's done is that it's got him a book deal where I think now he's created his second book, and it's created a speaking series opportunity for himself and a great deal of other things. And so creating something that was very shareable and very social created opportunities for him to be able to do some really interesting things from a business standpoint. So what I want to shoot to is one more point, and then we're going to get over into questions. I want to talk about creating this brand footprint. So one of the things to think about is that in creating a brand footprint, I believe in this phrase that you often hear from a real estate standpoint. It's called location, location, location. And so I want you to think about, how do you own mental real estate? How do you become the solution in the mind of your end customer and the person who would want to purchase your product, the person who would want to curate, your artwork in maybe their gallery or in different things like that. So thinking about how you position yourself. The next thing is creating a digital footprint, making sure that there are places where people can find your artwork and things online. And the big part about this is that you have to think about the way that you share it. When you share it in certain social networks, you have to understand that basically you might be giving up the rights to that artwork if you share them, because if you read the fine print, it says that they technically own the work that you have. So you have to be strategic in how you do it, but they are a great way to be able to create opportunities for more people to be able to see the work that you do and to be able to connect with people. The third point is geographical real estate. How do you become the go-to person in your local market? There's opportunities from a media standpoint where traditional media, print, and TV media will be looking for personalities within your market. And being that person, being that gal, creates opportunities for now even major media opportunities on a national level. So again, I just want to get to hit a couple quick points. I want to now maybe open up the dialogue for me and Paul to kind of talk. I have more slides and I can go into more detail. But I find that it's more important for people to be able to ask specific questions that are important to them. And then again, I want to be able to give Paul a hard time as well too. So.
Thanks so much. All right. I want to pick a little bit the perception versus reality thing. And you're saying, I always felt like, and I would tell people that perception's more important than reality, or that perception equals reality, but they're not that equal. Then how people perceive things is more important than how they actually are. You're not saying that, are you?
What I'm saying is that if you communicate something and you don't have the ability to be able to live up to it, we live in a world where people share bad experiences instantly, and when they have positive experiences, they're very slow to share those. So say, for instance, if we just said, if you said that you have the ability to be able to produce 10 pieces of art, you know, and someone pays for that artwork, and you're not able to fulfill that, what's
Well,
going to
that'd be bad.
happen is that is that you know, someone's going to go online and they're going to be able to share that immediately. So when I'm saying that, I'm saying that, you know, you have to be what you say, you know, and I believe that from an integrity, credibility standpoint is very important. So that's what I'm talking about when I say you have to, perception has to equal reality in terms of, I find it very important to be able to share what I know I have the ability to be able to carry out at a high level.
I feel like when I had an art gallery, I was aspiring to my reputation. You know, and my reputation was better than my self-image, so that I kept trying to equal it.
Well, I mean, I think it's one thing to challenge yourself, and I think that, you know, I think we should never get to a point to where we're so content that we don't feel like, you know, that there's any room for growth, and we should always be looking for things to challenge us. You know, you'll find this, you know, with athletes all the time. Kobe is a great athlete between, you know, between those four lines. Now, you can question a lot of other stuff about character and other things and, you know, and other things. But one thing that you can never question is his ability to be able to compete. And what he's always looking for is a way to be able to push him to be able to get the most out of his ability, you know. And I think we have to look for ways that really kind of push the boundaries of creativity, push the boundaries of us bringing our most creative work to the table. And so when I hear you make that statement, what it sounds like to me is that, you know, is that you are looking for ways to be able to challenge yourself to be able, you know, to be able to go to the next level.
Thank you.
Now, I'm not sure whether you achieved it or not, but at least, you know, it was something
We
to
just
be able
stop
to
with the thank you part. All right, now, what about you? Let's talk about you personally. And I mean, how much you're tweeting? How many times a day do you tweet?
So, I mean, I might tweet maybe 15 to 20 times a day. I try to be strategic. You know, I'm the kind of person where, you know, where I look at these social network platforms as a way to be able to humanize who I am. So, you know, it gives people an opportunity to be able to understand me as a person, knowing that I don't just sit behind the desk 24 hours a day and just do work. I'm a human being. So say, for instance, when the Tigers were playing last night, I was sharing my thoughts as it relates back to the game because I want people to know that I have balance from that particular standpoint. But what it also does, it gives me the ability to be able to kind of position myself as a subject matter expert. If you look at this whole concept of subject matter, of being a thought leader, you know, maybe like 10 or 20 years ago, and you had someone like a Bill Gates who would have to be in senior level management, and they have to, you know, be doing what they're doing for multiple years, and you know, and get to a certain point. You have the ability to be able to do the same thing in a very shorter period, in a shorter time frame, just because of the power and the impact of social media. So what I do is I try to use it as a way to be able to leverage opportunity, create relationships, but also I try to do it in a way to where I don't put extra pressure on myself. And again, I'm not going out there trying to go have, you know, be like a million people following me. I just want to do what I love doing, and do it in a way where people see value, and hopefully that drives my business and the bottom line.
Do you tweet your posts to Facebook? Do they show up simultaneously in both places?
So what I do is I use a tool called Hootsuite. Hootsuite is a third-party app. There's a mobile.
You want to open it? I got it too. Do you want to? You can open it and show it on your screen if you want.
Okay, let's see if I have it. Let me go see. All right, hit escape real quick. Let's go back here. Let's go here. Let's go. All right, so if we go to Hootsuite, we'll go to my dashboard, and I'll show you. So right now I'm working on a conference. So I have Brand Camp coming up. So what I'm doing is that I can manage multiple streams, right? So I can actually, you know, so there's certain keywords that I'll actually create streams for, and so anytime my name is mentioned, then I know that someone is actually mentioning me, and I can make an actual decision. So I'll show you one from earlier today, which I thought was really, really cool. See where this one is at. Where this one at? It already went by it. Okay, yep. So the mayor of Detroit, he you know, he said that I was doing good work, and so I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect to get this tweet today, and then I began to share that across multiple different platforms. But if I didn't have this set up, I would not have necessarily known that the mayor of Detroit had tweeted about me, and it would have, you know what I'm saying, and I would have missed out on some opportunities. So what I did is I took that, I went to Facebook, and I'll show you what I did real quick. And so I had some other people kind of share it. So this is just some real-time examples of being able to take stuff as it actually happens, and then look for ways to be able to create more eye seeing it in a way. So I didn't go put it on someone else's wall. I just put it on my own wall. So I came down here, and we'll see where is it at on my wall, and then we'll move on to the next question. See, why do I not see this? Let me go here because I know it's here somewhere. Okay, right here. So what I did is I did a screenshot of the actual tweet that was on my phone. I shared it on my own wall, and I began to have people leave comments, and I think I had like 79 people who looked at it and they liked it. So again, you know, I'm doing it because what it does is that it adds a layer of credibility that there's people besides just me looking at myself who are saying that there's value in what I'm doing, right? And so what I'm doing is using that as an opportunity to be able to create other opportunities for myself.
Can you go back to the screen that showed all the different places you participate in social media?
Yeah. So, yeah, okay, so I'll go back to this one. And this is a snapshot. So I'm in more places than this, but so this is just a small sampling. So say, for instance, I have a .com, you know, so I have a blog, which I believe that everyone should have some kind of digital real estate that you own. If you have a .com, then that would be considered digital real estate that you own. The other places that you would be in from a social network standpoint, all you're really doing is renting. But those are very important places to be at. So you would look at your site as being places of having, let's see if I have it. This doesn't show here. But what you would be able to do is that it would show outposts to other social networks that you're actually at. So if I was to go back to, so versus being here, we can go to here. We'll go to HajjFlemings.com. So I'm connected to my other social networks, so that people who go to my site, they can connect with, they can look at other parts of the conversation that are actually taking place, right? So I have all my links from Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, SlideShare, Google+, an RSS feed. So there are other ways where now people can, this becomes an actual hub that people can connect to, and then get to my actual information.
How do you measure results from these different things? How do you know that Google Plus is worthwhile?
Well, there's a couple things. You know, everyone wants ROI. So, you know, there's financial ROI, and then there's some non-financial ROI as well, too. So at the end of the day, I have to look at what are the metrics in terms of really how I make money in terms of the business that I'm in. I'm an infopreneur, which means that I make money when I share information. And there's certain ways, or there's certain specific streams that are going to be strategic for me to be able to make money. Part of it is selling books. Another stream is going to be consulting, and then the third is going to be speaking. So, say for instance, as I do blog posts, I can look at how many page views I get. So I did some blog posts, and then I had Pitney Bowes take a look at the work that I did. They reached out to me, and they brought me in to go to 2 conferences, and we did a couple commercials together. So one of the ways that I was able to measure the effectiveness of me creating content is that it's driving corporations and universities back to me that are emailing me to be able to do live events and to work on projects together. You could look at it as, you know, what are the number of retweets or shares, how many people like a page, because then that can show you that there is a certain level of interest in terms of people now following the content. So, you know, impressions. So there are different ways to be able to kind of measure success, you know, in terms of, you know, if there's a certain level of engagement, you know, So that'll be one of it. It could be downloads. It could be, in terms of clicks or if there are ways for people to be able to purchase the product that you have. So there are different ways to be able to kind of measure that.
Let's talk a moment about non-social media branding. You're a fan of like Paul-Klein shoes, right?
Yes. So
is that part of your brand? I mean, is it part of your persona? How you dress, how you present yourself, how you go out in public, the shoes you wear? I mean, Michael, when we were talking with Michael, he was talking about how he has 20 pairs of the same socks, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about you and how you put yourself out into the world aside from social media.
Okay, so part of it is that people make, your visual, there's a visual component to your brand, and this goes beyond just the logo. It goes beyond, collateral material and those kind of things. And also people make decisions based upon how you present yourself. And so if you look at the page that's up on the screen, I have glasses. So about a year ago, I didn't wear these glasses. I still wore glasses. I had contacts, but I was very strategic because I said I wanted to kind of change my look. And so I was looking for glasses that I thought would create a creative look, something that looked like I knew what I was doing, like I looked like I could solve somebody's problem. I looked like I was smart. And I actually am smart, right? But I wanted to make sure that when people saw me and they didn't know how brilliant I was and how many degrees that I had, that they would have a certain perception. And so the glasses were part of that perception. And even the clothes that I wear, from the shoes, I try to be pretty thoughtful in terms of what I wear, because I think that it reflects who I am. It's almost like the public would almost be able to dress me, just based on what they would see from a consistent standpoint. So you probably won't see me wear a lot of ties when I go speak, unless I'm going to a place that wants me to dress up to that level. I'll wear jeans, I wear Paul-Kleins typically, and I'll wear some type of sock that has some kind of distinction to it, whether it's stripes or argyle, because I think that's one thing that a man can wear. So I do believe in visual cues, but again, at the end of the day, you have to feel comfortable with the things that you wear, so that you're not just doing it just to try to look like a hipster, right? You can throw all the hipster stuff on, and you can go to Forever 21 and get jeans, and do all kind of stuff, and it might not really reflect what you want because you're trying to live out something that's not really authentically you.
What do you wear when you go to church?
When I go to church, I wear jeans, and I wear a button-up shirt. What?
Pretty much the same stuff.
Yeah. So I try to be authentic, in who I am. Fortunately, I go someplace where I would not feel uncomfortable wearing what I normally wear. So I feel very comfortable, there wearing jeans and those kind of things, and it works out well for me.
Downtime? Do you have downtime where you put on the other glasses and go out incognito, or are you always on?
Oh, I'll say, I feel like Superman. So like when I leave the house, these glasses have to be on. But I will say, is my wife is kind of sick of these glasses. So like when I come home, she's like, look, I don't care who you are in the public, you need to take the glasses off. So she kind of gets tired of them. So when I get home, I wear, I just wear contacts or whatever. And the interesting thing is, like on Fridays, it's kind of like a casual Friday for me. So when I go to, kind of like a Starbucks, I'll go there and I typically wear a baseball hat with no glasses on. And I had someone who was in Starbucks who knows who I am, and they were sitting across. They're sitting, I don't know, maybe about 10 feet away from me, and they text me and they're like, I think I see you in Starbucks, but I'm not sure because I don't see the glasses. So, so I do go incognito sometimes.
So, three things that I talk about in this course as being important for a successful art career is that you need to be distinctive. You need to distinguish yourself from all other people, and that you need to come from your soul, your gut, and be vulnerable and put yourself out there. And I suppose that being your own brand is about distinguishing yourself from others, yes? Yeah.
You want to find ways that that really kind of fit your personality, that are really organic to who you are, in terms of being able to kind of share your stuff in a way that that helps be able it helps people to be able to connect with you, right? Because really we live in a world where people consume information multiple different ways. And I think that, sometimes we get caught up in this online world, and we kind of forget how important face-to-face is. At the end of the day, there's nothing that'll ever beat face-to-face. And so what I try to do is try to be whoever I am online. I try to make sure that when people see me in real life, that I don't lose out on opportunities. And I try to use the online world as a way to be able to meet the people that I really need to be connected to in the real world. So I'll look at people's events that they're going to, or I'll search for things that are happening, or events that happen in my local area, so I can connect strategically with people in the real world. Because at the end of the day, business is really done based on relationships. And so I think it's very important and powerful to be able to take this online component of all these people that you're connecting with. And so even when I go into cities, I'll look at different tools in terms of being able to find out who are the influencers, who are the people in that city that I need to connect with. So when I get there, it gives me at least kind of like a base of people that I can look to be able to maybe learn from, connect with, and really kind of connect with that particular community that really kind of resonates with me.
Another point, that lots of people in this course talk about is the value of relationships, and it's about growing your community more than just networking in terms of what, I've heard from people. And, who you know and how you can benefit each other, and being generous and, being able to ask for assistance, which sounds like the same kind of things that you're talking about. It's hard for visual artists visual artists are prone to thinking that the best work is done in the studio and that things will work themselves out. And another thing we talk about is getting your butt in the game, that it's not sufficient to sit in the studio and just make your art, but you got to be engaged. Now, it's mostly what we're talking about with you is the amount that you are engaged. Do you differentiate between your branding, putting myself out there activity, and doing, I don't know what the right term is, more straight work, or focusing on work? Or are they indistinguishable for you?
We have to have a balance, right? Because, part of it is working in the business and then working on the business. And so, so part of it is that you have to have something of quality, because, at the end of the day, you can go out and network, but if you have nothing of value that brings to the table, then all you're doing is just going out and meeting people. So I think that, you have to spend enough time to where you've created something that people find value. And then what I find is that now, once people see that there's something of value, it begins to create opportunity. Like, there's this one artist, he's based out of the UK. His name is David White. And so I was going online one day, and I was looking at gym shoes. And so he had created this line of T-shirts that was the actual artwork that he had, and it was put on T-shirts. And so I just literally fell in love with the work. So I went and I'm ordering T-shirts from the UK because I really like this guy's artwork. But it was something about the stuff that I saw enough value in it that I was working hard to go get these shirts, because it wasn't easy to be able to connect with them. But I saw enough value there. So I think that, the first thing becomes, you have to create value, or create something that, that people are going to want to be able to get. And then also, too, I think it's very important to think about how do you connect with your audience. I don't know who that audience is, and it doesn't have to be where you have to have 1 million people following you. Having 1 million people follow you might be a platform or a way to be able to get you on a certain show, or to be able to get you into a certain magazine. Like, there's a young lady here in Detroit. She runs something called Detroit Soup, which is this platform to be able to help people to be able to kind of work on their businesses, and to be able to pitch their ideas. She was recently in O Magazine, right? So now, because of the work that she's done, she got an O Magazine. She now can use that on her site and then be able to then show, because those kind of things validate you. So if you look at my screen real quick, you look at some of the places that I've been at, whether it's CNN, Wall Street Journal, Disney, CNN. And what happens is that I had to take a break from just working on the business to begin to now look for ways to be able to make those connections from a media standpoint. but then I need to be able to come back and share that so that people see that there's somebody outside of my mother that finds the work that I'm doing valuable and interesting.
Cool. Let's open this up to questions from you guys, and I got one more question. And I'm all the time debating with myself about whether I should be posting. I'm a political person, but I haven't ever posted anything political on Facebook. And I am real tempted to do that. Uh-oh, what are we doing? You're gonna put me out there in the world.
On the screen so I can post it online, and I have Paul in I'm in the corner. Go ahead.
So should I be posting political things? I mean, I notice that there's some art critics who I really love who are, making political statements frequently. And I find a lot of people are real political, and I appreciate it because I tend to agree with whatever it is I'm seeing because they're my Facebook friends. But you're not making political statements online, are you?
Not really. I mean, you have to, you have to make sure that if you put yourself out there politically, or you make religious statements, you have to understand that there could be economic repercussions in terms of, and it could impact your business. And as long as you're willing to live, I'll tell people you can do whatever you want to, as long as you're willing to live with whatever the repercussions are. So for me, from a political standpoint, I'm going to be very down the line. Like I think I might have posted something saying that I supported Big Bird. After the first debate. But outside of that, I was just kind of having fun with that. But I'm not really going to really come out and really say a whole lot, because just from a business standpoint, I have corporate partners, and I might say something that could damage or impact that relationship. And for me, I'm not willing to take that risk. So again, you have to understand what the risk is, and if you're willing to take it, then I say go for it. But I would err on the side of caution, because the other piece becomes, you have to think about the context of something. So what you do today might be fine. In 3 months, there might be an issue with that because the context of that has changed, or whatever you're saying, if someone shared it somewhere else, if it's a picture, can someone take it out of context? Can it be shared the wrong way? Will it damage something down the line? Maybe today is fine, but you get a relationship with a certain sponsor in the future, and it might end that relationship. So again, you have to think about those things when you're making your decision to share something publicly.
I can think of artists who are so outspoken that they aggravate people by their statements and undermine their own financial success as a result of being too outspoken, or being outspoken sufficiently out of the norm.
Yeah, and some people might, and you have some people that might make their entire living in terms of just being, being this person who just says stuff just to irritate people, and maybe that's part of who they are, and maybe that works for them. If you're not that person, you might lose opportunity. I was talking to a lady the other day. She does real estate, and her husband is a doctor. So they had someone come over to do construction work. This person had a certain view, I think, on, it was either on abortion or on something else, on a bumper sticker. They decided to not go with this person because this person came over and had this bumper sticker on their car, and they said that this person lost out on $50,000 worth of business just because of that bumper sticker. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that bumper sticker. That person doesn't even know that they lost $50,000 worth of business. But this is what the lady told me, that they were very interested in the person, but once they began to share their view, and even though it was shared on the car and they didn't say anything to them, they lost out on that opportunity. So I just say, just make sure that you think about what you're sharing, how you're sharing it, and know that it could possibly impact your business.
Sweet. Okay, Laura, you got a comment or a question for Hajj?
Sure. I was wondering about Facebook. I just have my own Facebook page, and I've never posted any of my artwork on it because of the, I'm sketched out by the whole, like, they technically own all the images that I post up there. And I am a three-dimensional artist, not 2D. Some of my friends have made like their own separate page for their artwork. The only thing I've done is just push people towards my website. What sort of opinions do you have on that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so if you go literally, then technically they could own the artwork. Part of that means that they could use it in a commercial, in an ad. They don't necessarily have to go back to you. So if it was something that was a one of a kind, then maybe you might want to think about if you shared it there. Again, but there are pros and cons to that. What it can create is an opportunity for people to be able to see your work. So what I always tell people is that you have to weigh the risk, right? So, yeah, they could come back and they could use it and not have to pay you royalties. It might not end up being that big of a deal. You could also look for ways to be able to link it back to something else, but people are a lot more likely to be able to share stuff if there is the visual content is embedded there. If there's a way to be able to do it. So I would probably look for ways where I could display my expertise. I could display the quality of work that I did without jeopardizing the business. What I would also do is I would look for other people who are in the same business that I'm in. And I would look to see what are the other benchmarks? What are other people doing? Are they sharing it in a different way? I mean, are they doing something different, that might allow me to still insulate me in terms of being protected, but still be able to visually show the work that I did, and maybe it's you showing maybe a smaller portion of your work and not showing everything, so at least people can see the level of quality. So, I hope that helps a little bit. But again, I would look at benchmarks. I would figure out what I could share. And I don't know whether it's, maybe some older work or something, but I would find something that I could share in a way that would be able to hopefully be able to create some opportunities for me.
Do you feel, Hajj, that there's information that you share that other people, your competitors, could use, or someone could use to their advantage, and it doesn't help you as much, or it hurts you?
Well, we all have competitors, right? And so, but part of it is that if I don't share, then what's going to happen is that the companies that would want to, I mean, I have to be able to communicate that I have expertise. And if I don't share the information that I have, if I don't share checklists or do blog posts or write content, then people aren't going to know that I'm the person that they need to bring in and pay a lot of money to have me come and speak. So again, you have to figure out what becomes, the right mix in terms of the comfort level of what you share. But if you keep everything so tight and everything so closed that no one can see it, then then how do you expect to create business opportunities? I mean, people aren't going to work that hard. I'm sure that everybody's great at what they do, and you have a tremendous amount of, creativity. But again, there are so many other people out there that are doing the same thing, that are sharing their work, that they can easily connect to. If it takes them if they have to work too hard to find you, they're probably not going to do that. So again, you want to make it easy for people to be able to kind of share, connect, and find out who you are, and then to be able to really, at the end of the day, you want to give people the ability to be able to experience the work that you do. And so I think it's important to be able to find that balance.
There was an artist in a previous course who found out that there was a Chinese company reproducing their artwork on their website and selling their art. Basically what it meant is, if you buy this work of art, we'll go find somebody to create it. And she felt like that was, jeopardizing her career. My opinion is that it's worth the risk, and it doesn't undermine her market whatsoever. You would tend to agree, right?
There's a couple of things. So, so when that happens, so you can look at it maybe one or two ways. So maybe you're, maybe you're losing customers that you would have never gotten at all. It could also increase your exposure, so So it's all in terms of, you know, is there a way to be able to take the information or take that opportunity and then be able to spin it? You know, there are people that will probably take that and then turn that into a blog post or begin to write about their experience, and maybe that blog post gets shared maybe 1,000,000 times, right? And so now all of a sudden, you know, this travesty becomes an opportunity where they have 1,000,000 people look at the work that they're doing, right? So I think it really kind of depends, you know, and when something happens, you have to figure out, am I really losing out on business opportunity? And if someone is taking it, you know, is there a way for me to be able to spin that or share that? Because again, you know, that maybe somebody takes the artwork and they start selling it, you know, on the black market, and then maybe CNN picks you up, and all of a sudden they're doing an actual piece on you, and now all of a sudden you get some huge amount of exposure that you would have never gotten if someone hadn't stole your work. So,
Exactly.
you know, again, it could be pros and cons.
Okay, cool. Let's go to Lynn, then Chalda, and then Dimitri. Lynn, go ahead. Wait, there you go.
First of all, Hajj, thank you for speaking with us. It's very interesting, and I work also in digital marketing, so it connects a lot to what we do. I wanted to build a little bit about what you said about perception versus reality, and I wanted to take that specifically into the art world. And this is really a question for both of you, but what do you think is the equation between ego and skill? What's that equilibrium? And specifically, I know that there's a historical component, and of course it's changing now because of social media. But how important is it for an artist to have an ego? And then also with women, how does that relate to women?
Okay, those are good questions, because one thing to think about is that personal branding can be viewed as being this egotistical thing, right? Because some people begin to share it in a way where it becomes, it's all about them. And so I think that in any kind of business, you have to find out, how do you share it in a way to where people become more interested in you as a person, more interested in the work that you do. Because again, I don't think you can separate the person and the work, you know what I'm saying, the personal and the private, you know. So I mean, or the professional and the private. So what I try to do is I try to have a mix of, and I try to make sure that when I'm sharing stuff, that I don't take an old marketing mindset where you would take something and push information out. So when I share something, I don't go spam it on people's wall. I'll share it on my wall and give people the ability to be able to share it if they want to, right? I will go, I try to create platforms that make it easy for people to be able to then share it with someone else. People are more likely to share stuff if there's links in it. So if it's a post that you have, that becomes, I like to look at links as being digital breadcrumbs, right? So again, you're creating this actual trail. So I think that, you know, part of it is that making sure that as you're sharing, that when you're sharing stuff, it's not just you pushing out, okay, you know what I'm saying, artwork number 1, you know, it's posted at 10 o'clock. Art piece number 2 is posted at 3 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? So part of it is you have to be engaged with the community. So now, you know, people might have questions and you begin to answer questions. Some of it becomes, maybe you are at some type of art event and you're there with other cool people in the community, and you're sharing photos and people that like your work, and you're tagging them in the work, and you're showing some level of appreciation. You're showing maybe how your work ties into current events. So, you know, I try to do different things that really kind of bring people in when you meet interesting people. But also at the end of the day, you know, to being a woman, are there some other challenges? Like, you know, let me ask you this question. So when you're sharing your work, or as a female in the creative space, do people look at you differently if you're overconfident, or if you try to, you know, I guess, you know, try to have the same level of assertion as a man? I mean, I don't know. Are there any kind of taboo things that you've kind of seen?
Wait a minute, I had been muted because there's some echo. Go ahead, man.
Well, I guess I haven't experimented a whole lot with that because I'm emerging and I'm just about to get my stuff out there. I'm social, but I'm an introvert. I'm not an extrovert. But I did meet a famous artist who I thought was really interesting. It was Maria Cavia, and she was a client of mine, and he studied under Salvador Dali. And I thought his art was good, but what was more interesting to me was his huge ego. And I felt like he was very successful, one, because of his association with Salvador Dali, yes, his artwork, but his ego was so incredibly important for him in being successful. And I just thought that was really fascinating. And I know it's not me personally, and I think women often have a hard time having a big ego. They're not expected. I mean, there are all different kinds of things that women are expected to be, but I think it's certainly harder for them to be like that. Whereas as a man, people kind of expect it, and it's okay.
Yeah, I had a chance to go to the TED conference, and there was a lady by the name of Susan Cain, and she wrote a book, and I think it's called The Power of an Introvert. Matter of fact, I have the book, and I'm gonna grab it real quick. Hold on.
While he's doing that, I think, you know, both Hajj and I have worked with TED Fellows, and TED Fellows are like 10 people a year out of 1,000 people that apply for the position. And I'm not so sure about Hajj, but with the TED Fellow artists that I've worked with, they all strike me as being pretty insecure, and that they underestimate themselves too often and don't feel like they can fulfill their big vision. And I think that when an artist's ego gets out of hand, like it sounds like this person's way overcompensating, it sounds disingenuous, and that doesn't work either. And I also don't think you want to be a sad sack. I mean, people want to associate with people they perceive to be successful. So I think you want to present yourself as being worthy, but I don't think you want to lack humility. Hajj, your turn.
Yeah. So let me just show the cover real quick. This is a book by Susan Cain, and she's an introvert. And what it did is that it really helped me to be able to really kind of reimagine what an introvert was, because I mean, I'm more of a charismatic person, but it helped me to be able to understand that people can successfully share who they are, talk about things, and really grow their business, even if they're not an extrovert, right? So now, especially in this online world, there might be ways to be able to curate the story and the information and the ideas that you have in a way that lends itself to your personality. Because, you know, I mean, maybe it's having a great photo shoot, and, you know, and when people go to your page, you know, so maybe you're great in terms of those types of creating written content, you know, or maybe the blog post, or maybe kind of curating from that particular standpoint. So when people begin to engage with the stuff that they see online, you know, it really kind of connects with who you are. But I think ultimately you really have to stay true to who you are, because I think people will be able to read through if you're creating some type of facade. And I think to Paul's point, I mean, people want to be connected with people that they feel are successful, or people that they feel, you know, are at a certain level. And so I think, you know, really staying true to that, being confident in the work that you do, that people want to be able to connect with and do business with those types of individuals. So I think at the end of the day, it's really important to be able to really make sure that really comes through in the work and when people meet you face to face, right? Because again, you need to be confident in the work that you're creating.
One more point, Lynn. You know, artists in this course that frequently feel like they aren't sufficient, or that it's really hard for them to go out in public and talk about their art. And my notion is that all of you are here because you believe that your art is worthwhile. And if you believe that it's worthwhile, I believe you have a responsibility to bust through the obstacles that you put in front of yourself so that your artwork gets out into the world. It's not real likely that that it's going to get out into the world all by itself. It needs you to be a proponent for it. And if you believe in it, you've got to be the proponents and go out there and do it. Do you want to say anything before we move on?
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I mean, I think that, lots of times I'm always like scouring the internet, looking for creative stuff. So say, for instance, when I'm looking for stuff, I might go into Beyonce.net, and look at different portfolios because I'm looking for ideas, I might go to iStock Photo, and I'll look for maybe graphical images. I'll look for illustrations. So I know me personally, I'm looking for creative stuff, and I know when I see someone who creates something that is really cool that I like, I love sharing it. And I love being able to show people, like, look, this is something that's really cool because I can appreciate the creativity that person brings to the table, and I can appreciate the individual seeing something that I didn't see, even though we're looking at the exact same thing. And so I think people love finding stuff that's just different, that really kind of resonates with them. So I think you do have a responsibility, but also know that people are looking for your work. There are people that want the art or want the things that you're creating. And lots of times we like to look at other people and say, well, they have great work or they've done this. And I think sometimes we kind of discount what we bring to the table. And so I think that we have to be confident that what we're bringing to the table, that there is someone who's really interested in it. So you know what I'm saying? So that sometimes comes over time as you begin to see people buy your product or do different things. But definitely know that what you're doing, that there is a market for it.
Beautiful. You good, Lynn?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, cool. Chalda, your turn. Go ahead.
I've been social networking for a couple of years now, and it seems like the benefits are so amorphous and hard to measure. I don't think it's ever led to a sale. I'll post one of my images, and sure, people will put like, and then I try and go to their site and network, and I've really been floundering. I don't really see, where it's getting me. I'm with Google Plus, and I have a Facebook fan page, and I do other things. And I've hesitated to link these pages to my website because it just seems too commercial and junky to have all these icons and a fine art website. So I was wondering, Hajj and Paul, if you could comment.
Yeah, so there are literally thousands of different social networks that you can have. And we always talk about the main ones, right? So again, there's this infinite number of places where you could take people off, and you could develop all these different pages. So at the end of the day, you have to figure out where do you want to spend your time at, right? Because all of these areas take time. And they take time away from you doing the work, right? So now you have this balance of, all right, I need to do the work. I need to be able to create something. I can spend all day messaging people on Facebook and not create anything of value, right? So what I find is that there's going to be a lot of value in all these different channels, but you have to figure out what channels make the most sense for you, right? And look at it as this is creating some digital breadcrumbs so that people can find some of the other stuff that you do, right? So I would say this, look at the channels, find out, where people, are probably connected with you the most. Maybe it's more so in organic search and they're going to your website. Maybe there will be more value in, because these different social networks, if you don't have a large enough community there, what's kind of happening sometimes is that, it's not that you just build it and they come, right? If there's not enough people there, then you're just posting it and there's not enough people there to kind of really share with anyone else. So at the end of the day, the big part becomes, how do you become a part of a larger community? Maybe one way is, maybe there's a large Flickr group that has 30,000 people in it, and maybe you're connected with different people there. And because of the people that you're connected with there, you're connecting with different events or different people, and now it turns into an opportunity for you to be able to turn that into a relationship or to be able to go exhibit somewhere else. So even though it might not turn into maybe someone downloading, the artwork and actually purchasing it, maybe it turns into an opportunity where now it takes you to something else. When I had a chance to go to the TED conference this year, part of the door opening up for me is that they saw some work that I did on the CNN piece, and what it did is it created some opportunity for me to be able to get out to the TED conference. And so what I'm saying is that these things can create opportunities, but people have to be able to find you. And so it's more so creating those opportunities for them to be able to find you.
One of my adages is that you never know where good news is going to come from. And if you're planting enough seeds, you have more likelihood of good news happening. I feel like Facebook is worthwhile my doing, and I think for visual artists it is too. And if you take a look at Kickstarter, for an example, invariably the money's being raised by people who the artist or the person who's putting the Kickstarter up already knows. But they don't know how to get in touch with these people, or they don't know who's going to give. They just put it up there, and then they send it out to everybody else. And then, you find out who's generous and loves you and wants to support you. So it's, I think it's hard to know. But my sense is that for for us in the visual art field, it's definitely worth doing.
Yeah. There's some really cool stuff, and I'm trying to think about. There was a book project out there. I'm trying to remember what the name of the. It was a design. Let me see if I can just find it real quick. I want to just kind of if not, yeah, okay. This is it right here. So it's the shape of design. The shape of design. So I want to show you guys this project. This was a really interesting project. So this is by a guy by the name of Frank. I can't pronounce his last name, right? So he wanted to come out with a book, right? So his goal was to raise $27,000. This guy ends up raising $112,000, gets 2,100 people excited about the idea. So, he technically didn't need to get a book publishing deal. He generated $112,000, right? But part of it becomes being able to tell the story. And one of the great things as you begin to look at these types of platforms, he had 2,000 people following him. I'm very confident that he didn't know all 2,000 of those people. But part of it was, how did he tell that story? He had a cool video there. He had a good summary. There's some other stuff where he shared some really cool pictures in some of his updates. I think he showed pictures. So he was really kind of going through that whole process and really creatively making this interesting. So when I look at this picture, I personally like great design. So when I look at that picture is cool. I can look at his shoes, and I think he has some really cool boots on. I'm looking at that cover, but I'm looking at the angle, and that's kind of cool. So now he's showing the dog reading the book. So now this becomes something that's very interesting. When you look at a lot of stuff that's shared online, people will tell you, who are really into social media, they'll tell you, if you want this stuff to go viral, either have a cat in it or have bacon in it, right? And for some reason, cats, dogs, and bacon, people like it and they start sharing it. But this is a cool picture. This picture is a lot more interesting than just having just a book laying on a table. And so part of this is him telling his story, right? And so now he posted the picture in Instagram. And so then he posted it here, and now people can share that picture, but he's creatively kind of telling a story. So part of your posts are not just pushing out my artwork, but now how do I show some context and begin to interestingly begin to kind of tell that story, So I think this is a really good example of really good design and just really being able to connect with people and being able to connect your ideas.
That's cool. So you have a preference for gray book covers with red text, right?
This one happens to work, but I'm sure if you did it, I probably wouldn't like it. But Frank does it, I like it. This
is the second book you've shown with a gray cover with red text.
Oh, I did? I showed another one?
Yeah,
you know what? I didn't realize that, but yeah, that's a great point. So I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. So if it works out and you do that, let me know, and I want my royalties. If it doesn't work, then it's Paul's fault. So.
All right. Well, at least I know what to make my book cover look like. All right, Dimitri, your question, and then maybe we'll wrap this up. Go ahead, Dimitri.
Thank you very much, Hajj. Thank you so much. Fascinating subject. To my horror, listening to you, I'm discovering how underdeveloped I am in this area, and I tried to get your book out of the library. It's not available in the library yet. When you talk about you being the branded, the branding. A couple of years ago, I was part of a show. It was a two-artist show, and it so happened that the press release went out before the curator visited our studios, me and the other artists. And after visiting the studios and talking to us, she said that this is a horrible press release. And I loved the press release. To me, it sounded very professional. A professional wrote it. But the curator said both artists have very strong personal story component to it, and the press release is not selling it. What are your tools? What are your reality checks? How do you know the story? I'm living my story, right? I'm inside of it. How do I step outside and not make a fool out of myself presenting my story? Obviously, I need help with it. It's very hard to see it from the inside. Thank you.
Okay. So how do you bring more clarity to your story and begin to tell? Some stuff, it kind of happens over time, right? You know what I'm saying? Because your story, it's a living document. So some of the stuff that I had in my bio or some of the stuff that I started out with is not what I have today. And so over time, I began to get more comfortable with being able to tell my story and then being able to understand what really separates me from other people. So when you begin to, over time, begin to really kind of think about, okay, now, what is it that I do that people see valuable, and some of that stuff doesn't happen overnight. And so I think being responsive and listen and, and being able to listen to what people are saying about the artwork. So, I'm the kind of person where I can take feedback, even if you tell me something in a way that is difficult to receive, but I know it's good information. I can take that information and I can apply it so I can try to make the work better. So part of it is being able to take constructive criticism. The other part becomes, beginning to understand, where your market is at. How do I tell that story? Do I need to tell that story in video content? Do I need to be able to be more of a energized person? One of the things that I realized in being on TV is that I'm naturally a laid-back person, which means that I have to over-exaggerate stuff so that when people look at it, I don't look like I don't care. And and so part of that becomes understanding how that medium is going to reflect who you are. I think it becomes very, very important. And I think, from a personal brand standpoint, how do you begin to kind of think about and kind of document your story so that you're able to articulate the story? And it's not just articulating face to face, but in various different mediums. But I'm also a strong believer in looking at benchmarks, finding people and finding examples of stuff that has already worked and is successful, and looking at ways how can I learn from that. Lots of times, what you find, I think Steve Jobs had a great quote, and I'll probably misquote it, but he talked about people who borrow artwork or something like that are average, but people who steal are great or something like that. And it was something to the effect of if you look at the automotive industry, I mean, everybody looked at something that works and they take it and they tweak it. And I like to use there's one example of a Huggies. Somebody came up with the Huggies diaper. Somebody else decided to come out with Depends undergarments, right? And so that Depends is nothing more than a diaper made for people that are in a different demographic, that are a little bit older, right? And so, but they're making a tremendous amount of money off of a product that already exists. They just repositioned it. So sometimes being creative and being able to tell a story and being able to create an idea that's marketable is not trying to create something that's on Pluto, on this new planet that they just found, but maybe just a tweak to something that you're already doing.
Thank you.
And also my book is available. It's available in Amazon. I know you mentioned that it wasn't at the library, but it is available in Amazon or on my website. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. We can't hear you, Paul. Or maybe Paul's battling.
There you go. I had to cough, so I muted myself, and then I forgot to unmute. Sorry. I think this has been a ton of information and really valuable. And then I said, what I need to figure out is another excuse or means of you and me interacting, or, you know, I think you should bring me on your show.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll definitely, so we'll definitely bring you on so we can try to figure out how to expose people to you. So.
I know, and I'm gonna have to dress better, but you know, when I go out there with you, but I'll do it for you.
Well, I feel special.
You are special. This has been really wonderful. I really appreciate your contribution. I really appreciate you waiting to get started tonight. It's been really fabulous. Let me unmute everybody. We can all clap in unison here, and you know, I look forward to being in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a good time, and I would love to connect with you guys online. So if you're in Facebook or you're in Twitter or whatever, I would love to connect with you. And so, you know, and maybe share some of the stuff that you guys are doing.
Hold on one sec. Hajj is the only person that I know of whose last name is Flemings, Flemings, and he's pretty easy to find on Facebook or on Twitter. He's out there, you know, I mean, he's putting it out. It's easy to connect with, and he just invited you to be in touch, so follow up if you wish. Hajj, this has been great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, and I'll see you guys online.
Awesome. Good night, Hajj. Thanks, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.